All right, welcome back. So in the last video, I installed Flask Commands with pipx. If you absolutely do not want to install Flask Commands with pipx and you want to use the Python package manager, which is pip, to install Flask Commands, by all means, please do that. That is actually how I recommended installing Flask Commands back in version 02. Now that I'm on version 03 and Flask Commands is really part of Flask. I just kind of transitioned over to pipx. It seemed cleaner to me. So I'm going to walk you through though, because if you want to install it with pip and you're comfortable with that, just going to walk through that setup. So the you still need you need to be able to have Flask new anywhere on your machine. You need to have it globally somewhere. So let's say that I've already kind of shown you where, like, what my packages are. So if I did pip freeze, then it lists all my global packages, and I've tried to keep my machine super clean. I have one global package. So if you want this globally, um, you, as I said, you have really two options: install it globally or install it in a virtual environment that you're going to use globally. So let me go through the first one's the easiest one. The first one is just copy this and do this anywhere on your machine. Just do pip install Flask Commands, and I'll go ahead and run that so you can see what happens. It's going to make my global environment essentially fairly messy. You're going to see several packages. All the dependencies are now going to be included. And so you now see I have all of these things installed on my global machine. If you do not want that, which I really didn't, what you can do is you can make a virtual environment, and you can make that virtual environment anywhere on your machine that you want. You will just need to remember where you made it, and you will always need to go there in order to start installing a new package and activate the virtual environment. If you are not familiar with virtual environments, don't worry, don't stress. I'm totally going to show you exactly how to do that. So let me start new here. So let me change directories so there's not so much stuff. And let me just go into my sandbox. Let's suppose, well, actually, let me go into my docs and just make a folder. So this is making a folder. We're going to call this sites. So let's say that I had a folder called sites, and I'm always going to make Flask applications in this folder called sites. Maybe I would install my virtual environment in that folder. Okay, so cd into sites. All right, so if I list everything in there, there's like nothing in there. So I'm going to make a virtual environment in there. So to make a virtual environment, you type in Python, either Python or Python 3. I'm so used to typing in Python, I often mess that up and just type in Python, but I've recently transitioned over to Python 3. So then Python or Python 3 -m venv, and then the name of your virtual environment, which I used to call venv, but in more recent development, we've been moving toward .venv, I've noticed. That just kind of hides it, because you don't push up a virtual environment. You should be able to rebuild your virtual environment on a different machine. So I'll go with the kind of the convention and what VS Code is using, which is .venv. Okay, so just hit enter there. takes a second. And so what we're doing is this. If you're completely unfamiliar with virtual environments, I just want to pause and explain what virtual environments do. If you're making a Python package or a Flask application, you're going to have packages that are related to that package and or application. Let's just think of Python Flask applications. So you're building your web app number one, and you have some dependencies. You pull down some packages, and a certain package is on version one. Well, after a year, you need to start developing web app number two, and you're going to use that same package, but now that package has moved from version one to version two. Well, in your new Python, in your new Flask application, you're going to use version two, but you don't necessarily want to update your old one. You probably should, but it may break things. So you create a virtual environment, and in the new one, you're using version two, and the new app two, but that still allows you to use version one in the old app one. So that's the idea. Hopefully that made sense behind virtual environments. We're doing this kind of in a little bit different way, in that, like, I'm saying I'm going to have a virtual environment where I'm going to put Flask commands in this sites directory. So I need to activate this. So I'm going to do source.venv then activate. Okay. So I know that my virtual environment is activated because I see this in front of it, the name of the virtual environment. If I do pip freeze, I'm going to see nothing because there's no packages installed in this virtual environment. So now if I do let's just copy it, pip install Flask commands, then it will install everything that we earlier in this video had installed globally. This is a second way of doing this. So you wouldn't do both installing it globally and installing it in a virtual environment. You pick one of the two. So now if I do pip freeze, I'm going to see that I have Flask commands 033. Yep. So essentially, I've now given you 3 ways of doing it. I still recommend pipx. It seems to me to be the cleanest. If you are wanting it globally on your machine, do it the beginning way of this video, and then you can just do in any new, if I open up any new terminal, so I'll just open up a new window here, bump up the font for you, and then now I can do Flask new anywhere on my machine. I can, if I want to test something out in Sandbox, I go to my CD documents, Sandbox, I can now do Flask new here because I have it installed globally. If, though, I did it with the virtual environment and I wanted to install a Flask command in Sandbox, then what I would have to do is, I would always have to go to that sites. I would have to activate that virtual environment, and then I would have to traverse now to Sandbox, and now if I do Flask new, now I am using the Flask commands from the virtual environment, which is sitting in my sites folder, but I'm using it in my Sandbox folder. So, like I said, that's a little bit awkward. If that's the route you want to go, by all means, do that. I just recommend using pipx. All right.